I remember being 16 years old and learning about the checkout policy, and I was fired up, thinking I could check out used games. And when I found out, no, you open up a open up a new game and take it home.
We did it is we would check out the games like because games came out on Tuesday, we didn't get paid till Friday. We would check out our game on Tuesday, and then it lined up to where you were supposed to bring it back on Friday. So when you bring it back, you don't have to bring it around Friday. You just buy it,
right? Because you could buy your checkout, but I remember seeing content back before TikTok was a thing and all that, where people would be getting so mad about buying a new game and it was open. Alrighty, welcome everybody. We are back for episode 11, second episode of 2026.
It's crazy that we're done 11 episodes. I feel like just yesterday we started the first one.
I know. I was going back looking, if you've been following along on TikTok at any capacity, we've been uploading a lot of clips. So I've been going back through the old episodes and things like that. And it does not seem like there is that many, but goodness gracious. And each one is about an hour. So you figure.
Well, and we had a couple there from like episode 5 to like 8 where they were like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because we were doing the game awards and the LAN party. And
so we've got basically over 12 hours worth of us yakking. So, but you've been along for the ride and we really appreciate it.
We definitely do.
Very much so. So today's story mode, if you recall last week, we normally preface what the next episode is. We didn't last week because we weren't really sure. I hadn't gotten to any of my planning because of the holidays and everything. But today's episode, our story mode is going to be used and sometimes abused.
All about trade-ins.
Yeah, trade-ins at GameStop. It's very GameStop-centric. We're going to be talking about trade-ins. We're going to talk about some nostalgia around the promotions that GameStop used to have. And
some of them used to be so good, man.
Oh, man. And
we'll get into them in the story mode, but they used to be so good.
Yeah, just kind of talking through, just like we did in our other GameStop episode, firsthand memories of behind the counter, but also as a consumer. So more nostalgia, we're going to jump in and talk a little bit more about conference and revisit some midnight launch memories. Then
wait till I tell you about my Skylander trade-in that I had.
Oh yeah,
if I can find a picture of that, that'd be something.
Well, if only GameStop gave legit value for things, all those amiibos that we found the other day when you showed
they're
me
not going anywhere.
No, I know you need to hold on to those. But
so, what is our side quest though?
Side quest today, we're going to have Disc of the Day. So that's where we focus on a particular game or series of games, if you will. And then Rewind Select. So we're going to reference back to kind of retro moment in time, looking about tech. A little bit of throwback there.
Chase had to take a week off from games. He's pretty bad at them.
Yeah, well, it's because I like to play on easy, and everyone likes to criticize me for it. And ironically enough, that TikTok about playing on easy mode is the one everyone's been commenting about. And I'm losing that battle.
I could have told you that.
Horribly. But okay, so that's going to get us going here to press start, and let's go ahead and jump into our story mode, used and sometimes abused. So I know that I think I traded in things at GameStop. As a consumer, probably more than you did, I would probably guess.
Yeah, I didn't trade in. I did trade games in, don't get me wrong. Like, if I opened the game and I thought that game was absolutely terrible, I would trade it in. But there was a lot of games, I'm very big on, I'll play through a game and I won't, if I don't get all the way through it, and then I get caught up on something else, and then, wait, 7 months down the road, hey, I want to go back and play it.
Yeah.
And then I'll restart it. So I'd always, and the problem is, there were multiple games that I did that with. There's a game in particular that I can tell you that I've bought at least 7 times.
Is Skyrim? Because I think everyone's bought Skyrim 12 times.
Ark Survival Evolved, the original one.
Yeah.
Because I would buy it, we'd play a ton of it, I would trade it, I would buy it, I'd play a ton of it, I would trade it, and then I would buy it on a different console. And
there have been some rotations. You bring up different consoles. See, that's where I got my trade itch. Started. We go all the way back to the discussion around the console wars, PS2, Xbox. I made the comment, I didn't own every console until the PS4 generation, because I had a PlayStation, traded it in, got an Xbox. Now we acknowledge that it wasn't an even trade by any means, but I was always, and I remember working there. People did that all the time. They would come in, they trade in their PS2, their entire PS2 library to get an Xbox. Trade in their Xbox 360 entire library to try and get a PS3.
I didn't have it all the time, but I definitely had instances. I remember there was a guy that had it was we referenced it a couple episodes ago, the SOCOM outburst where PlayStation Plus went down and it was gone for like 3 weeks.
Sony's had way
this
too
guy
many
had
issues.
this guy had like the big blue like tubs.
Mm-hmm.
He brought 4 of them in with his console and traded everything.
Oh my god! Because of the shenanigans.
Because he was tired of it and he wanted to play online. And
yeah.
so he sold everything, bought a 360 and a bunch of games and stuff like that. He ended up getting like that is probably one of the higher trade-in values that I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
but it was because of the actual amount.
Oh yeah, just sheer magnitude. And back then, I mean, GameStop. I think everyone knows GameStop has always not given very much as far as. I mean, that's the ongoing joke on the internet.
Yeah,
you know, but I do think that they were a little reasonable at a certain point in time, to a degree.
Yeah, I think they. I don't know about newer consoles because I haven't bought my consoles from there. Like when which I know we've referenced this a couple times, but I finally got a Switch 2. So
yes, we were just talking about ZA right before we jumped into this.
So, but I am very of all of them. I had like back in the day, you got a good amount when you traded toward the next console.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I remember the promotions where you could trade a 360. And you would literally only pay like $100 for the new console, which was insane because the 360 was going to be phased out.
Well, yeah, and they would do, especially when it became common nature to, have the console come out, and then a year and a half later you have the Slim come out or whatever. They would do these promotions where you trade in a console, get an extra $50, $75 or whatever toward the new console. And I remember those console launches we've talked about. People would come in with their old consoles, or they would come in with, just loads of trade-ins.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you were still selling used, and some of them, believe it or not, you got your best like used consoles when the new console came out because it's the people that didn't want to keep the old ones, but they played them all the time and kept them in pristine, like.
Oh yeah.
Like some of the used consoles we got at that time, like
and back then the thing that was really different, I would say, compared to now, because I have done some recent trade-ins, but like back then when you would trade in a console at GameStop, we'd be there, and I didn't work at a very high trade volume store. You did. I remember working at that store. You'd have $500 in trade-ins by noon, if not more. But if somebody traded in a console, you'd hook it up, you'd test it out. You had the little TV thing behind the.
Which they got a right before I left, they had a newer one of those that was awesome.
Well, and you probably experienced a little bit of this, but at the time it was you hook the console up, you test it out, make sure everything was copacetic, and that was it. Now, I mean, they have a thing,
it's a whole diagnostic thing.
They do it's a full diagnostic. They have like if you just trade in a controller, they plug it up and they test all the buttons and stuff. I mean,
that started right as I was leaving. The controller
thing,
yeah.
Like, and I guess I can appreciate that to a degree.
Part of it was because they stopped. They went from red, yellow, blue or red, yellow, white to the
HDMI.
So if you remember, like when I first got there, we had that old box TV that was in the corner,
and you just plug it up.
Yeah.
And that made sense. I mean, it ended up being more modernized and all of that, but. It blew me away. I traded in. I have a really bad habit with my PS5. I love new controllers, but I don't do multiplayer, so I only have the need for one controller.
I keep 2,
and so I do keep 2, and it's so I can rotate them and charge them. But when like a new awesome color comes out, I want to trade in the old one and get a new one. And first off, I was really depressed at how low the values are on those controllers at GameStop, which is awful. But they were plugging it up and doing. I was like, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Oh, it's a diagnostic and everything." I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, they started that right not too long before they've been doing it. So the monitor things that they have now,
yeah,
they had those whenever I was like finishing up.
Yeah,
they were just getting those in most of the stores. So like,
gotcha.
We were starting to get those pretty consistently.
Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, working at GameStop and taking in those trade-ins, like what would you say was your most memorable, either from a this is awesome or this is a hysterical trade-in? And we're not talking cockroaches. We already talked about the cockroaches. But what was like your best trade in.
I wish I would have been working. I will give GameStop that new thing they did just recently with the trade anything.
Oh my gosh.
There were some hysterical things that got traded in.
I could not believe when they announced that. Now, given it was like you were limited to one item and it's $5 or whatever, but I saw some of the things that
There's a bunch of taxidermy items.
A lot of taxidermy, like bricks, just all kinds of. It was absolutely lewd. So there's nothing that we have that's going to top that.
No, we're never going to beat those stories. No. But I had. Mine's not really weird, but I just had some. As Chase said, I was in a very high volume store where I was running. The tub trade in with that guy that I was speaking about just a few minutes ago, that was the biggest one I've ever had. But the most annoying one I ever had was that Skylander one that I referenced earlier.
Yeah, and so what was the deal with that?
So Skylanders was a game that was a craze. Like it was.
I remember it had like the little portal thing.
You played the game.
It was like the Disney Infinity thing, right?
It was Disney Infinity before Disney Infinity came out. Like it was the original.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So this individual.
It was a Spyro thing.
Yeah, it was Spyro. Okay. There was like 5 or 6 different Skylanders games. Had every character from every Spyro or from every Skylanders game. He also had the first Disney Infinity.
Were those like amiibos where they were individual SKUs?
They're individual SKUs, and I had to look up every single one of them because there's no barcode.
Oh my gosh.
So like you're trying to find out like names and you're Googling. It was like a 2-hour trade.
That's ridiculous. And he had to have only gotten maybe a couple bucks for each one.
Well, it was a younger kid that he had got him when he was younger. And he was probably like 14 or 15 and he didn't want him anymore. And his parents were like, well, let's get rid of them. Well, no one wanted to buy them because the game wasn't popular anymore. He's like, they'll take them. We can go get something for them. There's some that he actually got like $9 or $10 for.
Oh, well, that's
like some more unpopular.
But that had to have been, I mean, and GameStop didn't always make the computer system like to the naming convention of items very obvious. So that had to have been a nightmare.
So at the time, I knew a bunch of them.
Right.
But like, so you would have like Spyro. But then there'd be like 5 versions of Spyro.
Yeah, and yeah, and then the little acronym at the end, it would be all goofy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't know why my brain went here with Skylanders, but at GameStop, whenever people would trade things in, and maybe it's because with Skylanders, the thought of them not being individualized when they were resold, it sounds like they were individualized. But I remember when GameStop would take trade-ins on certain things. And what came to mind immediately was third-party headsets. So,
yeah, Turtle Beaches would be
Turtle Beaches. People would come in with Turtle Beaches and high-end headsets. There was one SKU to take that trade in on. They'd get $10 for it, and literally we'd sell it for $15 or $20. Somebody would come in and be able to buy a $100 headset for $20. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, and we talked about regular customers, I think every time that happened to me, I set it aside, either selfishly for myself or another employee, or I'd call a regular and be like, hey, now given, I don't think anyone in their right mind actually traded those in, but being next to a Target, being next to a Walmart, being next to a Best Buy, the amount of times
I will tell you this.
People come down with very fresh products.
And you ask them about it, and you can't question them about it. You can't accuse them of anything. You just have to go with what it is. Now, I do remember there was countless times where people would try to do that, and they would still have the game sealed when they walked in the door. And
and GameStop had the rule if it was sealed,
a big policy. No, I'm not doing it.
And how many people?
Like, well, I'm going to open it.
They'd open it right in front of you. You're like, well, no, I can't.
I've seen it sealed. I'm not taking it. And then it would be a whole thing.
Oh man, it was. I can't tell you how many times. But the funny thing about that, though, I used to tell people, and it is still applicable to today. Not very much. I used to tell people all the time on Black Friday, you could find games on sale at Target, at Walmart, at Best Buy for $10, $15 or something like that. And if you checked again, now I think GameStop finally learned their lesson. But back in the day, this was very easy.
They were buying all the games.
You'd buy them at Walmart, Target, stuff for like $10 because they traded in at GameStop for like $15. So you'd buy them, you'd open them, take them to GameStop and trade them in, and then you would get those games on sale at GameStop. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and it still is
because you would get those trade-ins like within the last, I don't know, probably like 2 or 3 weeks before, like leading up to Christmas, like people would be doing that because the games would consistently be on sale. So I had a couple guys. One of them was a regular. He spent a lot of money with us, like a lot of money. But he would look at that and he'd be like, "Hey, look, this game is going to be $10, but for some reason GameStop's trading it in for 20 with the promotion. So
Yep.
I'm going to go get it for 10. I'm going to get 20, and then I can buy what I really want."
Exactly.
Cheaper.
Yeah, and it was, and like I said, I feel like they have to pay attention to that stuff now, just because of the state of kind of what they're in and everything. The one that came to mind for me isn't even a big trade in, but I'm a big fan of Quantic Dream games. We've had this conversation. Apparently, they're making a Star Wars game, which is going to be amazing. I think it's called like Radiant Eclipse or something. But Quantic Dream did Indigo Prophecy, did Heavy Rain, did Detroit Become Human. Amazing games.
I will play that game.
Oh man,
I will play a lot of that
oh,
game.
without a doubt. And I don't think it has a date yet, but Heavy Rain came out. Heavy Rain is a phenomenal, traumatic, upsetting game, and it has a bunch of different endings. Fun fact: if anyone who's listening to this has not played Heavy Rain at all, I highly encourage it. But also, spoiler warning, because I have to tell this story in order to get to the point. So the game has multiple endings. Have you played Heavy Rain? Because if not, I'm about to spoil it for you.
No, I've played. I mean, I've played.
Okay.
I've played it. I don't remember if I ever played all the way through it, but it got spoiled when I worked.
Okay.
At GameStop,
so there were several different endings, and when I finished the game, the ending I got was a relatively okay ending. You find out who the killer is, and you get your son back, and for the most part, it was a happy ending. In the grand scheme. I was working at Southland, and Heavy Rain had come out, and one of the regulars came in, was looking for a new game, and I was like, "Dude, you got to play Heavy Rain. This game is amazing. It won't take you long to beat it. It's got a bunch of different endings." He bought it. And, GameStop had a very strict policy on new games. As soon as they were open, you could not return them.
which is not a thing anymore.
From what
you can return new games.
I've heard that. But at the time, it was very, very strict. You could not return new games. Used games, you had that 30-day kind of thing. But so he bought Heavy Rain. It wasn't 4 days later. He came back, slammed on the counter. He said, "Look, man," and he's a regular. He knew. He said, "I know I can't return it, but I got to trade this in." I was like, "Did you not love it?" He said, "Dude," I said, "what kind of game ends the way that this did?" And he was explaining to me the ending about I think the kid dies and the dad dies. Like basically everybody dies at the end. Now that's not uncommon in games these days. There's some that have those kind of endings. And I Googled and looked through all the different endings, had no idea. And he was like, I guess it was a very triggering and upsetting thing to him. And I explained, I said, no. Look, man, there's like 4 or 5 different endings. So I pulled it up and showed him, and he said, "Oh, okay. Well, let me give it another shot, and maybe I won't trade it in." But he was so I remember it so clearly because I was so obsessed with that game. But he came in, slammed it on the counter, and was just like, "I'm trading this in." Da 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 da. He already knew he was going to lose, because game came out $60, trade in was 20, So, but it just cracked me up, made me feel bad. But the trades that we got at Southland usually were more cockroach story related.
Yeah.
so that's the majority of them.
I had a guy that he was a regular. He actually ended up working for a while. Super good dude. I don't think he slept because I know he worked all night, and then he played games like I guess when he got home most days. But they would play, or he was every morning. He would come in pretty much every morning. He would, especially on Tuesdays on new release days, he'd buy new games. He'd buy the new game. By Friday, usually,
back and trading it in.
He was trading it in and putting it towards the game that comes out next Tuesday. Consistent revolving door.
Well,
which that's the process that GameStop. That's the model that GameStop.
And that was what they wanted you to do because, and we transitioned a little bit to some of the promotions and things like that existed. That exact scenario, a lot of times GameStop would say, "Okay, if you trade in this game and it was a new release, you'd get
$40,
$40 or $45 for it." And then if you trade, and then
that also stacked with the PowerUp card.
It's stacked with the membership cards, which we'll talk about. But they'd also do, if you trade it toward a pre-order, you get another 10%. So you could buy a game, beat it in 3 days, trade it in,
and get
end up getting $50, $55. So, and then when you talk about the cards, so when I started at GameStop, I started 2005. It was like 3 months later they bought EB Games. I don't even know what the loyalty program was before that, but it was the Edge card is what it went to because that's what EB had, and they adopted EB's loyalty program. I assume they were still doing Edge card when you started.
Edge card stopped 3 months. Or
when did you start?
No.
What year did you start?
So
again?
Edge card was going in 2010. So
okay.
Edge card literally ended as I was coming on, and the PowerUp card started.
Yeah, the PowerUp card started in It was my conference of 2010, so August of 2010.
Yeah, so I
and you started right then.
You were still getting people that had the Edge card, where they had the sticker on the back of them, and it was dated, and that's how you would show when it expired and stuff like that.
Right.
And they were coming to the new system where you would just upgrade them with a PowerUp card. Because, like, if their Edge card was so good, you would just switch them over to the PowerUp card.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because the Edge card, like, that's the thing. You had the Edge card, and then they went to PowerUp Rewards.
I thought PowerUp Rewards was fantastic.
PowerUp Rewards was legit.
It was fantastic.
And the thing is, we talked about how GameStop back then had these expectations on numbers. It's why when you went to GameStop, you'd get forced to do pre-orders. You'd get forced to renew your Edge card or your PowerUp card. And yeah, that was, I mean, it was a sales thing. You know, there's no commission or anything, but it was just a sales expectation. But the PowerUp program, like the Edge card was just like 10% extra on trades, 10% off used games. PowerUp expanded beyond that. And it had different tiers. Like it had like a free tier and like a platinum tier. Like I used to brag.
So and then they came out with a third tier, which we'll go.
But I used to brag because I was working at GameStop at the time. They announced this program at conference in 2010.
I got special cards.
We got special cards, and I remember pulling up my GameStop app, and it was a PowerUp member since 2010. I did finally let it lapse because the program now is a joke.
The program now makes me mad because I don't know what they call it now, but I know it's
I don't know either, and I meant to Google it.
I feel like it's still just, they still call it the PowerUp card, but like I let mine lapse because, you know, when I worked,
I don't even think
when
it
I
does
had
the discount anymore.
No, it does. And they do discounts on more things. So what they did was the rewards when it was PowerUp Rewards, your rewards, you picked what you spent them on.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's you get a $5 coupon every month.
Right.
And if you don't use it, it goes away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't go to GameStop every month. So I don't.
No, and I don't do a lot of physical, and they do have restrictions on, like, you can't use those coupons for the digital stuff. And
yeah, and now I will say they give you discounts on, like, collectibles and stuff like that now. So if you're into collectibles, which is what we've talked about GameStop coming back to quite often, then that's something that you can do. You get, I think it's 10%.
Yeah,
the collectible.
So I know because that's their big thing is with collectibles and everything else. But it was very much like I remember probably my favorite perk though of the PowerUp membership, and I do think this is back now if I remember, but it may not. It may be completely separate. But the Game Informer subscription, I loved the Game Informer magazines. I still have a bunch of mine, but
I got rid of a lot.
I've got them.
I have a couple in.
No, I've got them in a house. I've got them in a tote, not here, but out of town.
All we got to do is go to Howie's house.
Howie's got all of them, including like
they brought it back.
They did, but because that's the thing. When I heard about,
and I believe it has the original editor.
It does. When it went under, I was very upset. I used to get those magazines. Of course, at the store. At GameStop, you would get so many because you would give someone a magazine when they renewed their membership and all that. So you would get so many.
Well, that's how I learned because we'd get the new ones in, and on my break, I would. Now, obviously, I had a PowerUp card the entire time I worked at GameStop. There was no reason not to, but I would at my first lunch that first day that came in on my first lunch.
That was how to stay up to date. And I'll tell you what, yes, we can go online and Google, and you've got 9,000 different ways to get your gaming content, IGN, GameSpot, whatever. Independent content creators, you know, the thing in general is this mob mentality these days of just this blanket hate on things is kind of annoying. But the fact that Game Informer came back made me very excited. I was a huge fan of getting it back in the day and going through, like, I always loved the end of the year episodes or not episodes, but issues and going through all of that. But
where they would do the countdowns of like what was the best games of this year.
Yes, best games of the year, you know, because the Game Awards weren't always a thing. You know, of course, they did start eventually, but
I think they started close to whenever I got to, because I feel like we watched them at my house.
Oh, yeah. It started on Spike TV and then went to something else. But the membership stuff ended up just getting really... Like, they don't do anything really worth it to me now. Back in the day... Like,
if I bought more collectibles from them, I think it would be worth it for that. Yeah. I would definitely save the money on it. But, like, we talked about before, what was it? Our last episode was about digital.
Yeah, the physical to digital media stuff, yeah.
So, now I'm buying everything digital. Like, with my Switch, I got my first 2 games physical, but it was simply because I have gift cards. It's the only reason I have them digital.
Well,
physical.
and that's the thing. The only reason I have purchased anything at GameStop in the last 12 months, I brought up the PlayStation controller. I did do that because I went and got the like blue metallic. But the next PlayStation controller I got was the whoop ass blue, like the Sony blue with the icons on the touchpad at Walmart, which is great. But the only other thing I've gone to GameStop for in the last 12 months has been like to buy a PlayStation card or a Nintendo card, like currency. Like I haven't bought anything physical
outside of when I got 2K.
Yep.
Actually, no, that's actually the last time that I went was to buy 2K.
Yeah, I did. I popped in there on Black Friday just to see what was going on, which sheer perspective on just the state of shopping, of how dead it was.
Which that's a whole nother thing with, speaking of digital media and everything like that.
Digital
shopping. Getting the same way, because now shopping's all digital too. Me and Chase had this conversation outside of here, and I literally bought everything for Christmas online. I never went. I don't think I went to a store for anything.
Yeah, I did. I did pretty much all mine online. I did all my Christmas presents online, and then I did go out Black Friday and do a couple things for myself. But for the most part, like, it was dead. I was shocked.
Yeah.
But the other thing about GameStop and when we were there, I said they bought EB Games when I started in 2005, but they also, and the thing is, when most people think GameStop, like, people older than me, and yes, don't give me that look. There are people older than me. I'm not that old. They will very much recall like Babbage's. Like, the GameStop in Jefferson Mall was Babbage's before it was GameStop. But there was also Funkoland. There was EB Games, obviously, which was primarily and apparently is still branded that way in Canada. But there was Rhino Games. There was Software, etc. That's actually what the GameStop was in St. Matthews Mall, was Software, etc. Lisa reminded me, because that's where she started, was running that store in St. Matthews.
We were talking about where she started at.
Yes,
we were
and I could not remember, and it was Software, etc.
So, I'm assuming you're going to go into like what they looked like versus now.
Yes, well, because that's the thing.
Well, what was the one? So the one in Jefferson Mall was Babbage's, right?
Right.
So if you could tell distinctly, it was white.
Yes.
All the walls were white.
Yep.
Whereas, like, you went to 707 and all the walls were gray.
Yes.
Because they were.
Now, they weren't gray until the remodel. They were white at 737. But the thing about.
I got there after the remodel.
That's true. But J Mall, it had the sawtooth kind of style shelving.
Remember, you had to go get, like, only certain stores had your shelving. So if you needed other shelving, you had to get it from the store. You had to call to certain stores to get it.
Yep. And they all had kind of some different vibes to them. And that's the thing. After the EB Games, after they bought EB Games, and I seem to remember, and I don't know if Rhino Games was actually like a chain or not. I mean, it must have been, because it was a big deal. But there was a Rhino Games here in Louisville, and Rhino was specifically.
The only one I know of is 5072, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, back then, GameStop was the pinnacle place to buy games. And there really wasn't a lot of retro stores. Like, you go to Peddler's Mall and stuff like that, but there weren't. Like, I can very much remember a time where there was 3 stores. There were 3 stores in Louisville that carried retro: Rhino, Game Force, Game Factor. That was it.
Yeah.
And then GameStop bought Rhino.
Which both of those, that was a whole mess.
Oh, yeah.
That was a...
But they bought Rhino Games, too. And I feel between the EB Games acquisition and the Rhino acquisition is when... Like, I can very much, I was scrolling through YouTube looking for old GameStop footage and all that, and looking at the signage and the way the stores looked, like the vibes, like you instantly feel when you see it. And then I remember when they went through their kind of full branding overhaul, and we got the TVs installed in the store and the signage. Like, I don't know why my brain is going to these signs that went up above each section that popped out. Remember how they kind of leaned over, so it kind of. And they had these really cool, like, we had marketing every Sunday. Working at GameStop. Every other Sunday. Working at GameStop on a Sunday, you'd have this massive box come in.
You would come in earlier because, like, speaking of when you're store manager.
Well, you would, because your store was so busy. The stores I worked at, we just did it while we were open.
Yeah, no. When I worked at 737, we would get there at, if I remember right, Rob or Amanda, usually Rob. She would schedule Rob. That was the only time that I'd ever seen
I feel like he loved doing marketing, though.
Well, it was the only time that I remember that they would schedule, or the only store, because the way her hours worked, she was able to schedule a manager strictly for marketing, a
Oh
manager
yeah,
to run the store, and then the GA, because there was a lot of times whenever I remember when it was
yeah, because nothing was worse than doing all that signage and marketing and then
because
having
we
to
were busy on
stop.
Sundays. Like we were
Yeah,
busy on Sundays.
yeah. Well, yeah.
It
After
was
the God Squad came in,
it
it was
was
getting
me,
nuts.
Britton, and Rob a lot of
Oh,
Sundays.
Fatty.
Yeah, it was me, Fatty, and
How have we not mentioned Fatty's name this
yeah.
whole time?
So it was me, Fatty, and Rob, because I remember because me and Fatty we would always run the register,
Yeah,
and
well,
Rob would do the marketing. But Rob was, if I remember right, Rob was scheduled like it was like 8 to 12. Like it wasn't a full shift.
yeah. It was just to get
It was
marketing
literally
done.
just a marketing shift because Britton had to take his break before Rob left.
That makes sense. But yeah, it was the thing that I probably loved most about marketing though was the fact that we got first dibs on any
Signage,
signs
posters.
that was coming down, the cardboard standees. Now you would have customers come in and be like, "Hey, I want that." You put their name and phone number on the back of it and call them whenever. Like I'm sure there are plenty. Like if there's one, there's a lot of things. Well, no, there's not a lot of things. I make it a point, take a lot of pride in living life with no regrets. However, there are some things that I would have preferred that
Not
I
even a
would
single
have
letter.
conducted myself in a way. I'm trying not to say that word, but is all the signage that I had kept, all the standees and everything. I wish I would still have that because not even because of value. Like, yeah, value is cool. You know, you look on eBay, you see some of that stuff going for pretty good pricing, but just for the sake of decor, you know, would be just
Yeah.
awesome. And you know,
I'm trying to remember if there was anything real cool that I kept from there.
well, I know that I did have, and actually, I feel like Quentin probably has it now. But when they got rid of the neon signs, they may have already moved all those by the time you started. But like the neon PlayStation 2, the neon Xbox,
It was gone, yeah.
So like I was able to get those, and I think Quentin has the PlayStation 2 one. I could be mistaken, and plus an N64 one. That was probably the coolest thing.
Well, I remember whenever they were moving, I don't remember what it was moving to, but the systems that came out of,
Oh, the demo units.
they were
Oh yeah,
just giving them away.
Yep. And then, well, and that was one of the other things. Like we'd have price changes and different things in the morning. The one thing that would happen all the time was pennied out merchandise. You know, and usually when you were thinking like, when you think of penny out stuff, what do you think of?
Guides immediately.
Strategy guides. And you know, we talked about how the fact that Howie has all the game informers. We talked previously demo discs, strategy guides, just all kinds of stuff. And at GameStop, you were told to rip the covers off the front and rip the covers off the back and throw them in the trash. I can think of maybe 5 store managers that actually probably tore those up and threw them in the trash. You know, I mean, they were pennied out, and then usually either the employees would take them or
We used them for giveaways.
I was going to say
They
or giveaways.
I remember them making a comment about that, or a DM or something, and it was.
Well, they ended up approving it for giveaways.
That's what I was getting at.
For
like,
midnight
for
launches.
Midnights, and even if it's a game like not even related to it, but it's like, hey, look, guys, we have this, y'all. And anything that panned out, what we did is we ended up creating a box, and we would give them out at midnights. Like,
yep.
Just throw them out at midnights, give them out, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's something else that I don't think that we've really talked about at any point in time. But I have no idea what the perks of working at GameStop are these days. But back then, like, yeah, you had an employee discount. It wasn't very much by any means, but there was a discount. And as store managers, we talked about getting to go to conference, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I think one of the biggest perks of working at GameStop, and not everyone knows for sure that this existed, but this is me confirming it for you. GameStop employees had a checkout log. You were able to.
We talked about this.
Yeah, you were not on the pod,
Thought
but every GameStop employee was able to check out any game they wanted for X amount of days, and then bring it back. That includes new games. I remember being 16 years old and learning about the checkout policy, and I was fired up, thinking I could check out used games. And when I found out, no, you open up a new game and take it home.
We did it is we would check out the games like because games came out on Tuesday, we didn't get paid till Friday. We would check out our game on Tuesday, and then it lined up to where you were supposed to bring it back on Friday. So when you bring it back, you don't have to bring it around Friday. You just buy it,
right? Because you could buy your checkout, but I remember seeing content back before TikTok was a thing and all that, where people would be getting so mad about buying a new game and it was opened. And they'd say, well, they just don't want to tell me that the employees took it home, blah, blah, blah. No, that was a thing. That was totally a thing.
Now, not every game that is open has been taken home.
No, because
we physically had to gut the games. And Like, we're not going to take home Madden.
No, well, back then, the GameStop had a really bad habit too. Now it seems, I feel now they have a lot of display stuff, so they don't have to gut as much.
The only new games we weren't allowed to check out that was DS games.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Because
because the
save
save
on
files, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember the way the store was laid out in the display. They had these new release sections, and you would gut 4 copies of a new release game to take up these 4 sections. So you would have 4 open copies.
I do remember that we had rules, though. Because there's some new games like
there were
like
definitely
on a new
guidelines.
release, like if you didn't have it where you were going to buy it, you could not check it out because you had to have it in case.
Yeah, and that probably all happened and started changing.
Well, there has to be like there had to be so many copies.
The only guideline I remember was so many copies, which for the most part, I will say that back in the day, telling people they have to reserve a game because they wouldn't get it and all that was bogus. These huge games would come out, we'd have thousands of copies, it wouldn't matter.
Now, there are obscure games.
Obscure games were different and collector's editions were different. But I will say, these days, with the way physical media is not...
You do need to...
You really... If you want a physical copy of a game, you really do need to pre-order it. But
because they're just not getting them in. I mean, we made this comment before. GameStop's model is changing. Now it's more collectibles and stuff.
Collectibles, cards, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say, the biggest benefit, though, of working at GameStop was being a store manager and getting to go to conference. We brought this up the first time we talked about our GameStop experiences. I went to 2 conferences. I went to Vegas and I went to San Antonio. Thank you for rubbing in. You went to 3.
Well, mine were 2 Vegas and an Anaheim.
Yeah, but you got to do Vegas though. And I think we already established this. Both of us experienced Vegas the first time under 21. So we didn't even
get my second time I was
I wasn't able to really enjoy Vegas. But the thing about conference, so first off, traveling for work, working retail was a really cool thing. First of all. Second of all, conference was literally an E3 for GameStop managers.
Yeah, which I know we talked about this, but like it was legitimately like
it was. I mean, you had the big huge hall, you'd have a host, and they'd have trailers being shown. I mean, it was literally like
and believe it or not, there were GameStop managers that didn't want to go to it.
No, yeah, because there were some.
Now we had Josh said no. He got us all together because I remember this whenever because I was one of his GSL stores. You had to go for X amount of time. Like we had to go for, I think it was an hour, and you had to come basically let them know, hey, look, I'm gonna go ahead and head out. But I remember first night I
loved it so much.
I got a free pair of Astros at conference, Astro A50s at conference.
Well, and that was the thing. The free stuff that you would get there, like actually at conference, was nuts. Like you would get a lot of it was swag related stuff, or like you said, like headsets and things. But
you'd also get all the games.
That was the thing, and I know this has stopped in recent memory, but every new release that was coming out, so conference usually hit in August. We all know the biggest games of the year hit in October, November, maybe December.
You
got everyone. Like I remember getting a free Red Dead Redemption. I remember getting Madden free like every year. I feel like I got several CODs free. Now I would always buy them because I want the Prestige Edition or whatever. Yeah. But
well, it was funny too because like we were talking a little bit ago. It went from you would get a physical copy of the game. Well, it went from us getting but the problem was people were getting them and immediately trading them in because they were like, I don't really want to play this game.
Yep.
The whole purpose of this program of them giving you the game is so you can talk about their game.
You can play it. You can talk about it. You
can talk about it. You have firsthand experience of the game. It's the same aspect of a lot of places. Like, hey, you're doing this because then you need to know what X does.
Well, it's like today with content creators and social media influencers. These game companies send them free stuff so that they can play it, stream it, whatever. So they can. That was essentially what these developers were doing with GameStop.
It's exactly what they were doing.
And they would. I mean, you would get free hardware. Like I remember,
dude. There was a span of for my second year of conference. Okay, they had some kind of program where we ended up with a used PS4. They gave us a Darth Vader PS4 at conference.
Yeah. After I left, there was a couple years where y'all were eating good.
They gave us a Switch, and they gave us a Xbox gave us the Blue Slim that came out.
I remember after I left, there was a couple years where like you all got everything console wise. When I was there, I don't actually remember getting any consoles except for I think there was like a
Well,
DS or
that's what's
something,
crazy
but
is they gave us that. That was my first
I
year.
did get a free Connect, I think.
I think that was my first year or second year. I can't remember. The very next year, they gave us a PS4 Pro. They gave us an Xbox, like the series.
Yeah.
Like they were giving us like I had like at one point like 9 consoles that I didn't buy that were given to me.
Yeah. It was insane.
Like Wayne has one of my the PS4 that Wayne has is one of my old ones that I got from that. My Switch that I had at the time, I gave it to my niece at the time. Like,
well, yeah, and then they would also send you like you'd have a box come to the store like while you were at conference,
and you had no idea what it was.
Yeah, it was just a swag box, and then you would distribute it, to your staff and stuff. And that was one thing that I did. Like if I was getting a free game, like perfect example, I didn't play sports games back then. We've talked about the fact that I don't think sports games are real games unless we're talking about maybe Blitz. That I would give Madden to somebody on the staff, because I wasn't going to play it. So I wouldn't trade it in. I would just, give it to somebody. Now I traded in my fair share, but I also remember.
Well, that's just so they could combat that. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
They went to digital, so now you either.
Oh yeah.
You couldn't just trade it in.
Right.
So
well, and I remember not my conference, but I seem to remember when like Lisa and Tim went to conference. The 360 was real big at the time. They had a lot of exclusive faceplates. Like I
remember that. They had like the Halo.
I remember
one.
looking up on eBay several years ago. There was this whoop ass BioShock faceplate that was like exclusive to like GameStop conferences. I was able to find it, and somebody was selling it for several $100s.
I remember
because it was only given at conference.
When I first started, or it wasn't my first year; it was my second year. Because the first year I didn't start till holiday, but my second year there, I remember her texting us and saying, "Hey, look, there's a box. The swag box is coming. I don't want it open yet. Just keep it sealed. Put it in the back. I'll come get it." Because we got back on Thursdays, and they had to work on Fridays.
Yeah.
Like they gave us off on Friday, and then had us work on Saturday.
I mean,
I would open it when I got, she opened it when she got back. She would get a couple things out of it that she would want, and then she would be like,
give it to everybody.
Well, she would be like, "Hey, here's this, every now and again."
Yeah, and the thing is, we all know the financial state of GameStop these days, so I have no doubt that they don't do conference anymore. I have
no. It came back.
Did it?
I think it came back last year.
See, now that's surprising because the cost.
Well, I told you they did something. They were in Nashville.
That's right.
A year or two.
Well, and they do have.
But no, they went back to Vegas. I think it was a year or two ago.
Well, they have significantly less stores now than they did. I remember looking this up during one of our episodes. It was like 8,000 or something stores back in 2011, and now they're at like 4,000. Like it's half of what. Like it's absolutely insane. But before we jump out of our story mode, our whole thing about this podcast so far, it started with the name Midnight Release because we were being nostalgic about working at GameStop, about the midnight releases of games. And then we've really talked about everything nostalgia related. In our most recent, we've talked about aging and adulthood and all of that. And I think that if there's something that I've learned through this podcast is the reason we miss midnight launches so much and the reason we yearn for them so much is because of aging. Like the way that we look at things then, the way we look at things now, and yearning for. I don't want to I feel like everyone's watched Stranger Things at this point, so it's not really. I'll say spoiler just.
We're not going to do that because I haven't seen it yet, so we're not going to.
Oh, all right, never mind. I won't make that correlation. But I just wanted to just acknowledge, since we circled back to our kind of GameStop discussion, that I really, even if midnight launches came back, like even if they do a midnight launch for GTA 6.
Chase, you're in bed by 10:30, bud.
Well, no, I usually go to sleep at like 11 or 11:30.
Oh, sorry, I was 30 minutes off.
That balances out. Okay,
I'm not even
so 11 or 11:30.
I'm going to work.
But I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning though. So there you go.
I'm still not asleep.
Well, okay, fair assessment. But I just want to acknowledge the fact that even if midnight launches came back, they wouldn't be the same.
No, well, they've tried. I told you they tried.
They
There's
did
a couple of them.
They did with Pokemon, I think.
Pokemon. It was a Pokemon that we were talking about it that
I
they
think
had
so.
on.
No, it was Black Ops 7.
It was Black Ops. They tried to do something.
Very
and there
bad.
were some that were like decent.
I saw some of the videos.
Like some of the videos weren't bad. So, but overall, like I just don't feel like if it came back, it would come back with GTA.
Yeah,
that's what it would be.
And I will say,
I don't know. which is weird because I haven't seen any like collector's editions or anything come out on it, but I did see a report that they have apparently like confirmed that is the date. They're not changing it again.
Yeah. It's going to be, I don't think people realize the economic impact of that. And frankly, I won't buy it physical. I'll buy it digital, which is why I probably wouldn't go to a midnight.
No, if they do something crazy with it,
yeah,
there's a chance.
But the thing is, what also made it amazing working there and having your regulars and all that. As a consumer, you had a regular GameStop. You knew the staff, you knew the people. I don't know anybody that works in any of these stores around town anymore.
I got a couple that I know just because they're still here.
All right. Well, maybe that's what we do then.
Well, no, but they're not here. Like
in different areas. That's fair.
They're down south a little bit.
I got you.
E-Town, Bardstown.
Oh, that's not too bad. All right. Well, yeah. So that's kind of cover our
story mode. Just a little bit about GameStop trade-ins.
Yeah,
talking about
a little bit of throwback to behind the counter. Used and sometimes abused in referring to ourselves as employees as well as the products that came in, everything like that.
And I will tell you, I know we didn't actually make the comment, but some of the trade-ins,
they wear you out. And I'll tell you what, in the process of processing them in general was
and something we just real quick that we didn't talk about trade-ins. Do you remember refurb fees for like games and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So like if they sent us, and there was some. I remember I had this kid. He would never get the warranty, the $3 warranty, and he would break his game. Not break it, but like scratch it really bad because he would throw it on top of the system.
And you remember Laser Burn, right? The perfect circles. Yeah. We couldn't do refurb fees on Laser Burn.
Which they changed that. They ended up doing that.
Did they?
They started doing them on it. Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah, let's jump into our side quests for the day. First one's going to be Disc of the Day. So Disc of the Day specifically this time. So our last couple segments, I think we did one on COD, we did one on GTA.
That was my other forte.
Yeah, so this one is not even a disc. So yes, the segment is called Disc of the Day, but we're talking Pokemon. So the thing with Pokemon, we've talked about it in Pocket Power. We were reminiscing and nostalgic over Red, Blue, and Yellow. And, we talked through the Game Boy Advance releases and the DS releases and all of that. The thing that we have to acknowledge, and the reason why I picked Pokemon to be our Disc of the Day, again, the irony in that, is because do you know what this year is, Austin? It is 2026. Do you know the significance of that with regard to Pokemon?
It's the 30th anniversary.
30th anniversary. And
you're asking me a Pokemon question like I'm not going to know it?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. So 1996 is when, and you know what? That's how, whenever we were trying to figure out when things came out, there you go, 1996. So Pokemon, the game started in 1996. Our most recent Pokemon, ZA, I played it, beat it, loved it.
I liked it a lot. Since I just got a Switch, I'm starting to play it. I'm like 6 or 7 hours in. I'm enjoying it. Got a full odd shiny the other day out of nowhere. The random Pidgey. It took me forever to find because I heard this queue and couldn't find it. I like ZA. The actual mainline game that they're playing right now, Scarlet and Violet, I liked those.
Yeah, see, we had this conversation. So this is probably going to go back to me and my easy mode stuff again. But when it comes to Pokemon, I very much like the linear nature of go to this town, do this thing, beat this gym. Go to this town, do this thing, beat this gym. Go to this town, deal with Team Rocket or Team Grunt or whoever, then do this thing. That very linear nature. Scarlet and Violet, I got a little salty about because of how open-ended it was. And how it didn't force you down a very specific path. It was just kind of concerning.
See, I loved it. I love Scarlet and Violet. I have a couple 100 hours in it.
I will say I went back and I did go back and I did play it and I did enjoy it.
I'll probably Z to A. I'll probably play Z to A until I'll play Pokopia when it comes out. I think Pokopia is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of the things. So how do you say it? Poketopia?
I think it's Poketopia.
Poketopia.
Actually is.
I can't tell you how many times I've said that wrong. But that's the thing. So OG Pokemon, love them. I absolutely hope and dream and pray that in 2026 they do some kind of collection with all the OGs with quality of life enhancements like experience share.
I read somewhere that the 30th anniversary they were talking about doing that with Yellow.
Yeah.
Because I think this is actually technically the 30th anniversary of Yellow. It's not the 30th anniversary of.
Well, no, red and blue.
They technically came out first.
Red and blue, I think, was 96. I think yellow was 98.
Yeah, that's
what it came
what it was.
out with
That's
the Game Boy Color. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the 30th anniversary. But I read somewhere that they were going to do the 30th anniversary of one of them.
But it would be, I mean, they could either do a collection, or what would make more sense, just make it available on the virtual console.
What they need to do is somehow find a way to map all of. It'd be so cool if they could ever do all the regions together.
In one. Oh my gosh.
It would be incredibly hard to do, but now that how many generations there are, but
well, and cool. The thing is, they've already started announcing different things happening for this year for the anniversary. They're doing another collab with McDonald's with Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
which those cards are
the gold cards, right?
I think that, but also just trading card, and with the scalpers and stuff these days, those cards are probably going to be money. I will happily go get a Happy Meal to get some Pokemon cards.
I got a reason to get a Happy Meal.
Well, that's fair. Well, so do I too. I mean, he will devour some. The problem is, a small fry isn't enough. He eats a whole large fry. So, but
we went to eat the other day, and I'm telling you, this is just quick note. We got him a grilled cheese and fries.
Just ate the fries?
He ate the fries and gave back the grilled cheese.
That's fair. No, we did when we were coming back from Lexington the other day. I had a whole large fry, set it in his chair, ate the whole thing. But so they've already announced that, and then we do know Poketopia is coming out, which I'm prepared to grind.
I know about you have it on here too.
Their next mainline games.
It is not confirmed. This is not confirmed. It is leaked.
Yes, I know.
They have never confirmed this.
I know they haven't confirmed it.
But Wind and Waves.
And that is supposed to be the next mainline. I am convinced we will have a new mainline entry.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it in November. It'll be October, November.
Yeah, ZA is not a mainline entry. So we're
I think they already said, if you think of their timeline, you had Legends Arceus, and then you had
Scarlet
Violet, then you had Z to A. Now you're going to have...
Yes, and 30th anniversary, that's the thing. I feel there's an opportunity to get a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah, so I will have a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very, very excited, and I never buy both. I will say I did when I was a kid. I would buy, when Sun and Moon came out.
Me and Wayne usually get the opposite ones.
Red and blue,
the last one, it was me and one of our other buddies.
Well, that's what it is. I usually make it a point to get the different one from someone else so that I can trade accordingly.
That's what. I always finish the main. I don't have a living dex in the games, but I always I get the shiny charm, and the last 2 or 3, I've always completed the dex to get the shiny charm.
I will say I don't grind like that. I get to a point where I stop playing, but I need
just
to go
I'll play a lot of it. So,
but yeah, so Pokemon, it just makes sense to acknowledge the glory of their 30th anniversary this year, and that's why they were our topic for Disc of the Day, even though it's not even a disc. And
it is not. That is true.
Yeah, so
what's our other?
Yeah, our next segment for our next side quest, if you will, is going to be Rewind Select. So Rewind Select, just quick little segment where we're going to get a little nostalgic, looking back at some old retro tech and things like that. While we were talking about working at GameStop, both of us worked at a mall store. Now, we've had a whole episode talking about mall culture and mall life and things like that, but something that I don't think that came up, and hasn't come up in any kind of full length, it always comes up in these little segment type things, is music. And working in a mall, do you remember what music store was in the mall when you started shopping there pretty regularly? Was it already FYE? Or okay. So see, that same store, so where FYE is now, used to be Camelot music. But did FYE
I feel like I remember that.
It had a purple neon sign.
And you could go but FYE, if I remember, it was something where you could see what songs were on the.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Do you remember the little kiosks where you could go and listen to scan the barcode on a CD,
and it would give you a snippet of it,
and you could play and listen to the song and stuff. That was something I feel there's so many things that in a post-COVID world that I can't believe we did this. Obviously, that is way before COVID, but it is insane to think that we would go into a music store, put on headphones that had been on 9,287 different sets of ears, and listen to music in the store. And we had CDs at that point. I understand that generations before us had cassettes and everything else, but it was CDs then. But the idea of going into a music store and scanning a CD and listening, and it wouldn't, you couldn't do the explicit tracks. I tried numerous times, but it wouldn't let me. But what was in talking about music, what was your go-to like CD that you would jam to?
Country Grammar from
Country
Nelly.
Grammar from Nelly. All right. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick.
It was that, and it was Nellyville.
Okay.
Those two. I was a big Nelly. I like Nelly back in the day.
EI, St. Louis. Okay, that's a good
St. Louis.
See, now I was very privy to Linkin Park. So I would say Hybrid Theory was out, but Meteora was probably my go-to.
Nah, country. Well, and do you remember Sweatsuit when it came out with Nelly?
I do.
Because they were two separate CDs. You had Sweat and you had Suit. It is like the covers were one, he was in a sweatsuit, and the other one, he was in a suit.
They started the multiple discs before Taylor Swift did with all the different albums and stuff. But I do, I used to, we've talked about how I walked a lot. I can't remember how it came up. I think walking to Blockbuster and walking to the movie theater. But, having a CD, you'd have 13 tracks or whatever it was, anti-skip features that never worked. And, before MP3 players and iPods where you could have hundreds of thousands of songs.
I remember the first sets of MP3 players where you could only have like
50 songs sometimes.
If that, or we would have to do it at Scott's house. We would have to.
Well, what I find funny, though, is when MP3 players, now iPods had iTunes, so that's fine. But when those MP3 players, like the generic brands came out, or Sony or whatever, there wasn't like a super easy, obvious way to get digital music at all.
Yeah.
So you had burning CDs, of course. But then you had
Limewire, which we talked about on Land Party Doritos,
where you would be downloading music. So it was almost like an encouragement of piracy by being like, hey, we're going to give you this device.
And then Apple came out with Apple Music, and you had to get it through there, and there were certain things you had to do to get it onto Apple Music, and then you could get it
it was iTunes before they went to Apple Music, but so they ended up kind of locking that down. But when we went through and had our conversation about the mall, and I talked about all my different phases and things, that led me down the rabbit hole of thinking about my music tastes. And
because it was never just a phase.
Well, it was a phase. I had a lot of different phases. Like we talked about my music taste and how different it is. But see, we're doing music therapy in therapy. So that's probably why music's fresh on my mind right now. And I've got some Adele and some Beyonce I'm supposed to be listening to here soon. But Linkin Park was always a go-to for me. And I've even got I made it a point to get Hybrid Theory. I don't have Meteora yet, but I've got Hybrid Theory on vinyl.
I mean, we listened to a lot of country growing up, but like Eminem,
The Show was my favorite of his albums back then. Without Me.
Eminem Show. My favorite Eminem song of all time is "Stan." By far, like it's always been. I love that song. I don't know why.
I was a big fan. I mean, all his fast ones, Rap God and Godzilla, I love those. But he did a song. I think it's on his most recent album called "Darkness" with Skylar Grey. I mean, he does a bunch with Skylar Grey, but it was about the shooting in Vegas. Very deep, very heavy.
Well, and that's what like Stan. I think that's one of the reasons I like Stan is because it was telling
very
a story.
Like telling a story, very deep and heavy song. Yeah. So in general,
that dude is incredible.
Oh, there is no doubt about it. And he's a grandpa now.
Yeah, he is. Haley just had her daughter. Which is his daughter, I think, right?
That I don't know, but either way, he's a grandpa, which is just insane. But in general, music. I don't think I've really thought about how much music had an impact on me from a nostalgia standpoint. I was involved in the local music scene and played a little bit of music and hung out with people that played music and things like that. I don't think we could ever justify doing a whole episode talking about music, but that's why we drop it in these little side quests like Rewind Select here.
So, but I think that's it, right? We're gonna go to our save point.
I think so. We're gonna jump into our save point and wrap up for today. So, hope you've been sticking around, having a good time with us as we talk through kind of some of these GameStop memories again today. A little bit behind the counter again. So that in general is kind of what brought us together in, at face value. So why not?
That's literally why me and Chase are. GameStop is why me and Chase know each other.
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
Legitimately.
And, it's insane to think about.
Speaking of sweatsuits.
Oh my gosh!
I gotta think about it.
Are you talking about my Adidas
I will never
tracksuit?
forget that green Adidas track. I walked in and you were standing behind the counter because at the time we had to wear jeans and polo or shirt
Yeah,
to be
well,
tucked in.
well, before
And
you
weren't
started,
supposed to be there, and you came to help. And I turned that corner, and you were.
look, before you started, it was khaki and a polo.
Yeah.
And dress shoes. And then they eventually went to jeans, dress shoes, and a polo. And then they went to jeans, tennis shoes, and a polo. I don't think they went to super casual like t-shirt and stuff until after I left. But yes, I was notorious.
You could wear it. Well, it was when they started carrying apparel because the shirt had to be
yeah.
bought at the store.
Well, what he's talking about, I was notorious for helping out at other stores all the time. I worked on Dixie Highway, which was about 35 minutes from the house, but I lived about 10 minutes from the store he worked at.
That's giving it some too. I think it's closer now.
Yeah. And literally, I was asked by the DM to come over there and help with something. And I said, look, I don't have, like, I'm doing laundry or something like that. And literally, I was in the store behind the counter in a green, I don't know what I was thinking. I was in a green Adidas tracksuit that I intentionally had zipped like halfway down with a big old chain.
He was something. I'm 16 years old, and I'm like, man, this dude looks like he's trying to be in the mafia.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but
we need to get you another one of those.
I need to find the picture. There's a picture somewhere. The picture I will say that exists, I have a shirt on underneath of it. It's a white shirt, but I used to walk around with no shirt underneath of it. I don't know what I was thinking.
But back to our save point.
Rabbit hole. Yeah. Back to our save point. So yes, thank you as always for kind of hanging out with us and listening to us talk through all these things today. It's always nice to go down the rabbit hole and revisit the time at GameStop where we met, where we have a lot of memories. And, again, we talked a little bit about Pokemon for obvious reasons because of the 30th anniversary.
As well as the potential of new games and things like that.
Oh, so, yeah, 100%.
The big thing, again, thank you everyone for listening. Keep giving us your feedback. I enjoy hearing from people that I haven't heard from in a long time.
Yep. If we've worked together, reach out, and if we haven't worked together and you've just got stories from wherever you are in the U.S. or the world, let us know. You can reach out first off, like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever it's called on whatever platform you're in. You can also get us at the email, themidnightreleasepod@gmail.com. So reach out to us there as well. Next week's episode, we're going to be kind of keeping with the gaming focus. If you notice, we've kind of got a rotation where we kind of do like some GameStop stuff, some gaming stuff, some general nostalgia stuff, and then we go back. So we kind of are trying to keep with this cycle. So next week's story mode is going to be Retro Resurrection. Is going to be gaming focused, but also some general nostalgia, kind of how every episode has been. But I think that about covers it, right?
Yes. Can't wait to hear your feedback, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Absolutely. And as always, remember, some memories are worth lining up for.
There it is.